What's up, everyone? All right, so in today's episode, I'm going to break down my trades from the morning, and we're going to start by looking at a stock this morning that went from 46 cents a share to over $20 a share in less than 1 minute. That is unbelievable. Now, today is a green day for me. You can't quite see my P&L tucked behind my chart here. And it's not because I'm embarrassed for you to see it. But it is because I'm only up $2,700. It's a small green day. So here's the deal. My cold market daily goal is 5,000, and I'm at half the cold market daily goal today. That's not the day that I was hoping for. But what I know from last week is that I had, I guess, at least 2 or maybe 3 days that were below my cold market daily goal. And then I had 1 day where I was at $52,000. And so the fact is, I don't need to hit, a really good trade every single day, as long as every few days I get a really good setup. Now, I am surprised that energy prices are up over 100% in the last 10 days, and we're not seeing that trickle down to more opportunities in the small cap energy sector. There's a number of small cap energy companies, and with the price of oil going up as much as it has in the last 10 days, I'm shocked that we're not seeing more momentum in those securities. We did see some last week with BATL, as you may recall, and there's been a few this morning that were popping up, but none of them have really been moving in a meaningful way that's provided opportunities. And so that has been surprising. It's a divergence from what we've seen in the past. In 2022, when oil was above $100 a barrel, we also saw some really big momentum in a number of small cap energy companies. And this time, oil making this huge move from, what was down, let's see, a couple weeks ago. We're down here. This is USO, which is not the price exactly, but in any case, you could see USO's up over 50% here just in the last 10 days. And so I think that, we're experiencing a bit of a divergence, and that's something to pay attention to. So this morning when I first sat down, I was hoping that we would see some opportunities on a leading small cap energy stock, but that was not the case. If we look at volume today, we just sort by volume here. The leader in volume is AZI with 143 million shares of volume. It is not an energy company. This is a stock that, is up quite a bit, but is just really going sideways at this point. Here's the problem. Now people are playing tug of war, buying and selling it for 2 or 3 cents a share. And to me, it's just not worth it. So I have no interest in this one, did not take a trade on it. Second leader is EONR. This one's got a 42 million share float. Also not interested in it. It's got a high up here around $1.04. TPET, now this one is energy, but it's only up 11%. So it's got a lot of volume, but it's not moving. So once again, we're kind of in a little bit of a, we're in a little bit of a rut here where I feel like what I would expect to happen isn't happening. And so I'm sort of caught a little bit off guard. So here's the way I approached it this morning. When I first sat down at 7 a.m., we had was it AGH or AHG? AGH. We had AGH on the scans here. And this one, as you can see, hit a high of 785, but it's a 8.5 million share float. It is also easy to borrow at light speed. And so when I typed in my level 2 AGH right here, I saw that it was easy to borrow, $5.33 right now. But that easy to borrow is what kind of had me thinking, no, I better leave this thing alone. So what I expect with a stock that's easy to borrow is that as it starts moving higher, because it's free to borrow and you don't have to pay the locate fee, that you're going to have more people selling short as it starts moving higher. So at a certain point, those early short sellers can get squeezed out, but until you cross that tipping point, it can be very heavy. And with this stock, I just I wasn't sure it was going to be able to cross that tipping point. And in fact, it didn't. It went up to $8 and then came all the way back down. So that was no good. And so then to the leaders, we had this other stock CIIT, which I want to show you was unbelievable. So this one ends up popping up, and in a matter of a minute, it went from 60 cents a share up to $1, $2, $3, $4, $5, $6, $7, $8, $10, $15, $20, to a high of $22.75 a share. And I'm sure there will be short sellers posting massive losses on this, saying, no fair. It's no fair. This stock, what the heck? It went from 60 cents to $22 and then back to 60 cents. I hear you. It's very frustrating. It doesn't make sense. But this is a Chinese company, and it's not the first time we've seen it. It won't be the last time we see it. These stocks can be irrational. And unless you can keep holding, I'm sure there's people that stopped out and covered. This is a stock that already had quite a bit of volume. So in the 50 cent, 60 cent price, there's certainly people who would have shorted 100,000 shares. That's not that big of a position on a cheap stock like this. So all of a sudden it goes to $1.60, they're down 100 grand. 260, 360, 460, 560, down $500,000. Up to 1060, they're down $1 million. Up to $20.60, they're down $2 million. Margin call, boom, account's gone, instant. And then it comes right back down. That doesn't feel fair. That doesn't feel right. It doesn't make sense, but the market can be irrational. We've seen these things happen before. I've seen stock go up to $200. We've seen some go to $500. So this is, whether you would call it an intentional bear raid or bull, well, I don't know. A bear raid is when shorts attack a stock. But if you would call it intentional, that it was designed to force shorts out, I don't know. I don't know that you could really identify that that's actually what happened. But in any event, it goes up, makes a huge move, then comes all the way back down. So it does have a lot of volume right now. And in any case, for me, it's not something I'm interested in. Now it's too cheap anyways. Now, I suppose at some point we might get one like that holds up around $15, and then I'll keep trading it as it moves higher. But if it can't hold up, then I'm not going to trade it. So that's CIIT. There's a few other stocks that have slightly higher floats drawn the scans. HIMS, XENE, But these ones, price is too high, float is too high, leaving those alone. And then we had LRHC, which popped up this morning, 42 million shares of volume right now. Again, a cheaper stock. And what was interesting on this is that despite the float being pretty low, this had a lot of big sellers, 50,000 share sellers, and they were selling and selling and selling. So they would sell, and then the price would move up. They would sell more, the price would move up, they would sell more. And then finally, the price started to roll over. And as the price rolled over, they started pushing the sell orders down, but they were always on the ask and suppressing the price. And so they must have shorted at least 200,000 shares of the stock, or sold 200,000 shares, but I think they were shorting. And it's pretty impressive considering how low the float is, that they even had those shares to borrow. But nonetheless, they pushed the price right back down. So on this one, I did take a trade, and I'll start with that trade. It was my last trade of the day, actually, but we'll start with it in any event, just because it was sort of interesting. So the way I was looking at this was, would there be a tipping point? And so I took this trade right here on this little micro pullback right in there. And what I was looking for was the possibility that if we broke over $1.75, that we might squeeze through $1.80, $1.85, $1.90, $2, and maybe that big short that had been selling all of these shares here would get forced to start to cover. That did not happen. So I jumped in and out, made $162.78. All right, that's a small trade, but that's fine. So a small winner. That was my last trade of the day. Did 10,000 shares, 75 to 78.76. All right. Then then we'll go back to the first trade. So the first trade of the day was on OPTX. OPTX hits my scanners, and I saw it actually just hit the scanner again here a moment ago, or at least I thought I did. So anyways, doesn't matter. OPTX hits my scanner, and it pops up, and I see that it has a defense headline. So 4 million in defense orders, and I'm like, okay, this is something that I can kind of wrap my head around. And so I let it pop up. It then pulls back, and I'll show you where I jumped in this one. I didn't jump in as it was squeezing up. I jumped in as it was dipping back down a little bit. So let's see. So it was actually right in here. It popped up to a high of 9. It dipped down, and I got in right here for the break back over 8. It popped up to 820, 840 right here, as you could see. It then flushes down to 720, and I was still holding. I added as it came back up to 780, and I sold when it got back over 8. And I was like, yikes. That was a little bit of a close call. At the very bottom here, I didn't buy at the very bottom, but it sold off, and then it bounced right back up. And so I held through that pain. And that's essentially what it was. It was a quick flush, a big red candle, and I held through that, and then it rallied back up. Now, at what point would I have had to capitulate and stop out? Probably below 7. And I was ready to. I had my order ready to sell, and if I'd sold there, it would have ended up losing about $5,000. Not great. So when it rallied back up, I go from red on it, 2,500 or whatever it was, back to green. And I said, get out and do not get back in. So I did not get back in. And so that was my first trade of the day. That was a little nerve-wracking. Second trade of the day was on FGL. So FGL, this one, it's a foreign listed company. I've traded it a few times before. And when it first popped up on the scanner, I was like, I don't know if this is really going to work. I don't think it will. The volume is light, but, I'll give it a chance. We'll see what it does. So it hits a high here of 11. It drops back down, and I got in right here at 10 for the break back over VWAP. It was like right about here. Pops up to 1060, took a little off the table. It dips back down. I'm still holding. It comes back up to 11. I take a little more off the table, and I was ready to add back if it could hold over 11 for a squeeze higher, but it couldn't. It dropped back down. I sold the rest of it, and so like that, had a small profit of $938.94. So, and then the final trade was LRHC, which I already shared with you. So those are my 3 trades for the day. 3 trades, 100% accuracy. That's going to improve my accuracy a little bit for the month of March. The profit to loss ratio, these average winners, I'm up 2,700 divided by 3. So the average winners are fairly small today, but it is what it is. I mean, this just was not a really hot market. And again, I'm a little bit surprised given what's going on with oil. But the thing that we do know is that the U.S. equity markets, so there's no question that this price in oil is going to have a rippling effect through the U.S. markets. And the S&P 500 is down, a good bit since this conflict began. And I mean, it's not a huge amount, but it is down a bit. And I think there's a realization that what's going on is going to disrupt a lot of these multinational global companies. Obviously, shipping and everything else is going to, prices are going to change. Profit margins are going to adjust. Airline stocks, they're going to suffer as a result of this. Tickets are going to be more expensive to cover the energy costs. And they're going to, presumably lose maybe some money on tickets that they already sold, 6 months in advance or whatever it is. If you already booked a ticket in January for a trip in July, and now suddenly the price of oil has gone up as much as it has, that's going to have an effect on the profit that Delta makes on that ticket. So, and their profit margins, are not the biggest as it is. So, that's definitely a factor. And then we obviously also recognize that the price of Bitcoin is down quite a bit. So let's see. I'll just pull this up. I'm on my my laptop here, so I don't have all of my all the tools that I usually use for checking prices. But in any case, I actually had a dream last night that Bitcoin went to 5,000. A dream or a prophecy? Oh, I hope it's not a prophecy. But it was a dream. And so let's see, current price today is around 68,000. So, you know, I I just know that when we've had big drops in Bitcoin in the past, that it has weighed on the small cap market as well. And so, to the extent that that may be the case again this year, that is contributing to things, excuse me, being a little bit slower. So Bitcoin being down, the S&P 500 being down, you can check the IWM, which is the Russell 2000 index. Not that I'm always even trading Russell index stocks, but IWM is down a little bit. So, this is sort of the context. Within this context and environment, we will see some surprise moves. We will see some black swan events. We had a couple last week. I had a great day last Wednesday, and I expect that there will be more days like that. But that's kind of how it's going to be. It's going to be a little bit hit or miss. So, when it's a day that's feeling hot and when we have a stock that's working, I want to get aggressive, but I don't want to overstay my welcome on them. And on days when it's colder, I want to take my foot off the gas really quickly. And if I could do that, then I can get through this colder market and I can do quite well. So I'm already up 75,000 on the month of March here, which is great. So off to a really good start. And today adds another 2,700, so 77,700 roughly. So going to continue to make progress. And on those days when the market is giving us some good opportunities, I'm going to be more aggressive. Today, we do have dispersed attention. So we have several different stocks that people are focusing on. Instead of all that volume being on one obvious stock, it's spread across several. That never helps. So, this is just the way it is today. But if tomorrow we have just totally dead scanners, there's nothing, and then a stock pops up with news at 8 a.m., and it's a headline that's like right on par, either in the energy space, defense space, or it's a good old-fashioned biotech stock, but that stock is obvious, that's where, I'm going to be looking to see if we get some really good action. So for those of you guys tuning in on YouTube, as always, if you want to join us for a 2-week trial, there's a link that'll be pinned to the top of the comments and in the description. 2-week trial for $20. Lets you watch while I'm trading. You get to see this window right here, so you can see my position, see where I'm getting in, where I'm getting out, and you'll hear my market commentary. And you'll also have access to this software right here for charting, scanning, and breaking news. So you guys are welcome to check out that trial, and I will be streaming bright and early, first thing tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'll see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning. Reminder as always, trading is risky. My results aren't typical, so manage your risk, take it slow, and I'll see you in the morning.